You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's top stories. A national dialogue session is held at Biddy's residence, and Marada movement leader MP Sulaiman Franjieh urges the media against exaggerating claims on ending the presidential deadlock. Military prosecutor Judge Sa'ar judges 26 people with links to ISIS and involvement in the November 12th bombings in southern Beirut. And President Recep Tayyip Erdogan seeks to play down tensions with Russia after Turkey's downing of a warplane on the Syrian border sparks fears among NATO allies. U.S. President Barack Obama has joined Lebanese leaders in emphasizing the urgency of electing a president, stressing that ending the 18-month-long presidential void is essential for Lebanon's stability and security. In a message to Prime Minister Tamam Salam to congratulate him over Lebanon's 72nd independence anniversary, Obama said he is proud to be Salam's partner in addressing Lebanon's security, humanitarian and development challenges, as well as assured remaining by Lebanon's side during those endeavors. So national dialogue sessions was held this morning at Speaker Nabih Berri Zain al-Tini residence as officials addressed the ongoing presidential vacuum and Marada movement leader MP Sulaiman Franjieh's possibility of becoming the next president. He said after the brief talks that Change and Reform Bloc MP Michel Aoun remains the March 8 camp's presidential candidate, but if the March 14 camp makes a proposal, then he is willing to consider it. Media speculation has been rife in recent days that Franjieh would be a new presidential candidate in the wake of claims that he held talks last week with the Future movement leader MP Saad Hariri. He urged the media to derive positives from recent developments, saying that efforts are ongoing to reach a settlement to end the presidential deadlock. Military prosecutor Judge Sa'ar charges 26 people with links to ISIS and involvement in the November 12 bombings in a southern Beirut suburb. The November 12 double suicide attack in the suburb of Burj Brajne, which was claimed by ISIS, killed at least 46 people and wounded over 200. The national news agency said that those charged had worked under the commands of an ISIS leader identified as Abu Walid al-Sudi. They are also suspected of being behind plans to carry out more attacks around the country, transporting explosives and hiding them in apartments in Beirut in the north and recruiting individuals to ISIS. The charges come a day after the preliminary results of the investigation into the suicide bombings were handed over to Sa'ar as the Internal Security Forces Information Branch and General Security wrapped up their preliminary investigation with suspects linked to the case. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey sought to play down tensions with Russia after Turkey's downing of a Russian warplane on the Syrian border sparked fears among NATO allies of a wider conflict. This comes a day after a Russian military pilot plane was shot down by Turkey after the Russian Su-24 warplane had violated its airspace 10 times within a 5-minute period. Russia denies the accusations. The pilot arrived at an airbase in Latakia territory after being rescued by a Syrian army commando unit. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu explained the pilot was rescued in a 12-hour operation and is now safe and sound at Russia's airbase in the government-controlled area in Syria. Russian President Vladimir Putin reacted furiously to what he described as a stab in the back committed by accomplices of terrorists. Ankara and Moscow are already on starkly opposing sides in the over 4-year Syrian civil war, with Turkey wanting to see the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad, but Russia being one of his last remaining allies. Coming up next, on a lighter note, a young toddler tries to win Ellen's heart. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching the 4:20 o'clock news here on Future Television. Tunisian security officials declare the country to be under a nationwide state of emergency after a suicide bomber carried out an attack on a presidential guard bus, killing at least 13. Troops and armed police patrolled the city streets and set up checkpoints, searching vehicles and pedestrians. The blast on a main boulevard in the capital emphasized Tunisia's vulnerability to Islamist militancy following earlier assaults claimed by the Islamic State. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the latest attack, but the Islamic State jihadist group has previously staged attacks in a North African country, often seen as a rare success story of the Arab Spring after its 2011 overthrow of longtime dictator Zine al-Abidine Ben Ali. U.S. President Barack Obama said the United States and France will stand united to fight Islamic State militants following the November 13 attacks in Paris, pledging to step up efforts to combat terrorism alongside its European partners. Obama held a joint news conference with French President François Hollande at the White House. Hollande is trying to rally support this week for a more coordinated international campaign to destroy ISIS. He is due to visit Moscow on Thursday.
This is an important moment for our nations and for the world. This barbaric terrorist group, ISIL or Daesh, and its murderous ideology pose a serious threat to all of us. It cannot be tolerated, it must be destroyed, and we must do it together. This is the unity of purpose that brings us here today. Today, President Hollande and I reviewed our coalition's progress. More than 8,000 airstrikes, combined with local partners on the ground, have pushed ISIL back from territory in both Iraq and Syria. Today, President Hollande and I agreed that our nations must do even more together. U.S. assistance has supported recent French strikes in Syria, and we're going to keep stepping up that coordination. And as we saw with the attack in Mali, the terrorist threat goes beyond ISIL. This week I'll sign legislation to sustain our support, including airlift and intelligence, to allies like France as we work together to root out terrorist networks in Africa. We'll do even more to prevent attacks at home. Building on our recent intelligence agreement, the United States will continue to quickly share threat information with France. And in the wake of Paris and with the threats in Belgium, there's also a growing recognition among European nations that they need to ramp up additional efforts to prevent the flow of foreign terrorist fighters. As part of that, I'm calling on the European Union to finally implement the agreement that's been long in the works that would require airlines to share passenger information so we can do more to stop foreign terrorist fighters from entering our countries undetected. And I am prepared to send teams of our experts to work on this with our European partners to make sure we're redoubling our efforts here in the United States. Refugees coming to America go through up to 2 years of intense security checks, including biometric screening. Nobody who sets foot in America goes through more screening than refugees. And we're prepared to share these tools with France and our European partners. As François has said, our humanitarian duty to help desperate refugees and our duty to our security, those duties go hand in hand.
Speaking on the migrant crisis and making headlines all over the world, the Canadian government pushed back to the end of February its deadline for accepting 25,000 Syrian refugees in an apparent concession that its original end of 2015 target was too difficult to meet. Ottawa said in a statement it would still aim to take in at least 10,000 by the end of December and would give priority to complete families, women at risk, or gay and transgendered people. Pope Francis steps onto African soil for the first time to address the continent's fast-growing Catholic congregation during a trip that will test his ability to bridge fault lines between Christians and Muslims. The November 25th to 30th tour starts in Kenya and Uganda, which have both seen Islamist militant attacks, before he travels to the Central African Republic, a nation torn by Muslim-Christian strife. Millions of Christians, Catholics to be precise, and others are expected to turn out to welcome and for what public celebrations of Mass, presenting a challenge for national security forces to keep the pontiff safe and control the huge crowds. On the streets of Nairobi, people said they are looking forward to the visit. In Kenya, about 30% of the 45 million people are baptized Catholics, including President Uhuru Kenyatta. Police are being deployed in the capital for the visit, which includes Mass at the University of Nairobi on Thursday, now declared a national holiday. Government officials have said at least 10,000 officers will also be involved. So what are holidays without a little children cheer? A young Bruno Mars fan sang a song to the Ellen DeGeneres host, Ellen DeGeneres, telling her that he can't feel his face when he's around her. Take a look.
No supira da família, football pira. I shall always get the best of me, the worst is yet to come. Well, at least we'll both be beautiful, sad forever. This I know, no, this I know. She told me don't worry about it. She told me don't worry no more. We thought we can't go without it. She don't need you never be like, oh. I can feel my face when I'm with you. Bad love it, bad love it. Oh, I can feel my face when I'm with you. Bad love it, bad love it. Oh, I know she'll be the death for me. At least we'll both be numb. I shall always get the best of me. The worst is yet to come. Well, at least we'll be when necessary. We want what deep in love. This I know, this I know. When I know, she told me don't worry about it. She told me don't worry no more. We thought we can't go without it. She don't need you never be like,
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. A national dialogue session is held at Bidi's residence, and Marada movement leader MP Slimane Fanjiye urges the media against exaggerating claims on ending the presidential deadlock. Military prosecutor Judge Sa'ir charges 26 people with links to ISIS and involvement in the November 12th bombing in Brjne. And Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan seeks to play down tensions with Russia after downing a Russian warplane on the Syrian border, sparks fears among NATO allies of a wider conflict. Those are your Wednesday headlines live on Future Television. I'm Yumna Nofa signing off. Have a good night.